With all the apps and websites out there for birding, which ones do you choose? In this video, I'm going to break down the 5 I use the most often. Stick around till the end and I have a bonus website I use every time I have a difficult ID. The first website on my list is eBird. I use eBird all the time when going to new locations, keeping track of lists, tracking down rarities, so there's a lot to unpack here. If you want to see my full video, click on the card in the top right corner of your screen. That'll take you to my full tutorial. And right now I'm just going to do a really quick overview. To submit birds, you just come to the Submit tab, choose your location, put in your date, if you were traveling, stationary, historical, put in what species you saw, then click Submit. Now let's move on to the My eBird section. So the next area of eBird is the My eBird section. This keeps track of all your lists, checklist, media, and organizes it by state. Trip reports, you can put in dates that you were on a trip, and then it will give you all the eBird checklists that you submitted there, as well as a complete list of all the species that you saw. There's a lot more in here, so make sure you check out my full tutorial. Next part is the Explorer section, where you can explore hotspots, track down rarities, and see what birds are expected in your area for that time of year. Then there's the Science section, where you can see eBird's famous status and trends, as well as how your sightings impact the scientific community. So there's a very brief overview of eBird. Make sure you check out my full tutorial. I'll link it in the description as well. eBird has an app which makes it even easier to submit your checklist, so I'm going to walk through that right now. eBird Mobile makes it very easy to submit a checklist, keep track of your checklist, explore new hotspots and species, and see all your sightings in one area. This area right here is the same as the My eBird section, but sometimes it's nice to have it on your tablet or phone. To submit a checklist, you just start checklist. It'll determine your location. It'll bring up all the likely species for your area. Then you can just tap on here. Come in here, add comments, breeding code. This makes it very easy to submit. You can also share checklists with other eBirders. I use this when I'm out in the field so I never forget a certain species, and you don't have to use a notebook, stuff like that. And it's a whole lot easier than going into ebird.org. The next website I use only during migration, when I'm looking to see how the winds are and how that could affect bird movements. If you're birding by the coast, occasionally strong winds or storms can cause birds to make an emergency landing as soon as they see land. So knowing when to predict these movements, called fallouts, this is where windy.com comes into play. Just go to windy.com and then you can see anywhere in the world where the winds are, how fast they are, and what they're predicted to be. I use this all the time when birding by the coast, especially in spring migration, so that I know when a fallout is coming and when I should go birding. The next website is birdcast.info. Just go to birdcast.info. This also goes along with windy.com as far as migration goes. They have the migration dashboard and migration forecast maps. Using radar, they can predict the intensities of birds migrating overhead up to 3 nights in advance. So you can see how many birds are expected to pass through your local area in any given night. The migration dashboard shows you how many birds have flown over a certain county or state that night, and what the peak migration traffic, which is birds in flight at any given time, was. Also, using eBird sightings from previous years, they are able to have an educated guess at what birds are likely migrating. Quick note though, these numbers are just how many birds are traveling through your area per night. This does not necessarily mean you will have a great day of birding. Birdcast has lots of articles about how you can apply this to your birding, so make sure you check that out. The next app that I use for birding is Merlin Bird ID, so we're going to hop over there right now. Merlin Bird ID is fantastic for improving your bird identification skills. They also have the photo ID and sound ID. Photo ID allows you to take a picture of any bird, put in your location and date, then it creates a whole list of likely birds for that location. It's not always right, so you do have to watch it, but it can usually get you in the ballpark to help you figure out an ID. Sound ID helps you identify birds as you're walking along. Just have it listening, and then it'll give you birds that it hears. It's not always right, so you do have to listen and make sure that it's correct, but I find it really helpful. You can also start a bird ID. Just hit your location, date, size of the bird that you saw, colors, what it was doing, And then it's going to create a list of all the likely birds. This can be helpful if you didn't get a picture and you're not quite familiar with the area. This can be helpful if you are a beginner birder or new to the area, so I highly recommend trying this out. The Explore Birds feature allows you to put in a location anywhere in the world, as well as the date. You can sort by most likely, family most likely, or alphabetic. Then you can also hide birds on your life list. This life list is taken directly from eBird, so any sightings on your eBird life list will also be synced in here. Then you can see a complete list of all the birds that have been reported. This uses eBird sightings to do so. You can sort by different families. I find this really helpful when planning trips to decide where to go to get certain species. The next part in here is your life list. This is synced with eBird. Just gives you a complete list as well as pictures, descriptions, sounds, and range maps. This is probably my #1 tool for bird identification, so I highly recommend you download it. It's a free app available for Apple and Android devices. Again, I highly recommend it. Make sure you check it out. Before I move on to the bonus website, if you're benefiting from this video, make sure you smash the like button. And if you have any questions about birding or any of the apps or websites that I've mentioned so far, make sure you leave those in the comments below. I'd be happy to get back to you. So the bonus website that I use is all about birds. This is everything you need to know about birds. You can compare species. They have courses, live cams. I use this whenever I'm stuck on a difficult ID. If you just search any species, they then have information about that species, where you can find them, and some cool facts about them. But what I like most is the Compare Species tab. You can click on a similar looking species. It will tell you what to look for when trying to separate these species. For example, eastern and western meadowlarks look pretty similar, but when you go down here, you can find that they are best separated by voice. Whenever I'm trying to figure out what a bird is and there's similar species, I always like to come here to figure it out. So there's some websites and apps to get you started birding. If you want to see 5 quick tips that will help any beginner instantly improve, go ahead and click on the video right now on the right side of your screen. I'll see you in the next video.